Sean here, and I'm going to talk about something near and dear to my heart, and that's horror films. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a snob, and I like the occasional slasher. I still think Halloween was probably the best slasher film in terms of look and feel. I mean, now that I know how they made it, where they only had one garbage bag full of leaves, and it wasn't actually filmed in Illinois. Somebody told me it was filmed in California, and I was like, what? But that's the care that they took with it. And they thought it was going to be a bomb, and all it took was one review. I think it was from Rex Reed, maybe. Forgive me if I got the name wrong. I'm not that into those films that much, and then it blew up, and it became the highest grossing independent film of its day. So I like some slasher movies, and there are some good ones that have come out, but they don't go on my list. Movies that go on my list, and we're going to start off with one that I watched this movie, and it stayed with me for a long time after I watched it. It really did, and I have chills right now, and I feel like the room just dropped in temperature. It is incredible for one main reason. It sticks to its world, and it seems real. It revolves around a family who lost a daughter who drowned in a lake. And as it goes on, there are twists and turns. I'm not talking about a secretive plot, the government's involved. No, this is a horror movie. And there are horror elements to it. But in the way that it just makes your skin crawl, not in like a listening to Lauren talk way, but oh my God, like you just you'll see the same scene, but as you see it multiple times, something else will happen, something that you didn't even see before. It is outstanding, and there is one specific part in this film at the end. One person is talking, intercut with another person talking at two different times, and I have chills right now. I wish you could see it. My hair is standing up on end, and it seems like they didn't know it at the time, but they were actually describing the same thing. It's unreal. It was like a time jump with the way. It's just incredible. I don't want to ruin anything. God, so hard to talk about these. I don't want to ruin it. But Lake Mungo, boom, watch it. Now the cover, I think that they did to try to jazz it up. It's got like a girl flipping her hair back with water, but in reality, it's grounded. It's unique, and it's well done, and they don't step across the boundaries at all. And they put a lot of thought and care into it, and that's what makes it a good horror movie. It's something that if you wanted to jump into the genre, this would be where to go. This would be where you watch something like this with people, because you can talk about it for hours after it's over. And I think if you're the type of person who has a lot of friends, or you have friends that are into horror movies, you pop this in. Well, you don't pop it anymore. You stream it, you watch it, and it makes you think. And it's really sad. It really is. But it's also haunting. That's the word I'm looking for. When something is sad and scary, it's haunting. And this movie is haunting. I'm going to jump up real quick. I'm going to bump up. There's a director I've spoken to now, but I didn't before I saw this movie. And one of the things, this movie, the acting is okay. It's fine. It's passable. But the cinematography is outstanding. It is called The Night They Knocked. Now, if you want to make a prestige horror movie, you want to make a film that has people biting their fingernails. Mainstream horror movies will put people in tight situations. They'll be following a noise, and the music will build, and then a cat will jump out. Oh, Billy. And then they'll turn around, and you've seen it a billion times. As an amateur filmmaker myself, I'm nowhere near on the level that they did. But I understand. If in this movie they did a scene that I had also done before I saw it, they did it better. Someone was in the kitchen. And you want to have noise in the kitchen when you're in there. Because when that noise stops, that's when the tension sort of starts to build. The first tension is if you have a lingering shot, and I know I'm rambling, just bear with me. You have a lingering shot on somebody doing the dishes. The water's going. There's no other sounds, just what they're doing. They step away from the sink, and the water's still running. Now, this shot is covering almost the entire kitchen, like where the person is standing. So, when that person moves, do you follow the person? Am I supposed to be seeing something? Why would they linger here? What's the point of lingering here? And you start looking for things, and then when the sound goes up, you start asking yourself, should I be hearing things? There's a brilliant part of the movie. They show the exterior of the house, almost like from a security camera footage vantage point, from security cameras, but they're not actually security cameras. The wind, I don't know how they timed this, but the wind was perfect, kind of moving the leaves back and forth. And the first 2 times, nothing. But the third time, and these shots do linger a little bit, the third time you can hear whispering. And you get the feeling like whoever was talking to somebody else is terrifying. And they've done this before. And they know about what's happening in the house. It's really creepy. It's really scary. There's one horrifying scene in it. A horrifying death. It's just really disturbing. And you'll be talking about it for a long time. But this movie was well shot. If you don't like clowns, well, one of the individuals has clown makeup on. You definitely don't want to watch this movie. But this is a movie you watch with your friends. And I'm warning you, we're talking about scary movies. We're not talking about jump scare movies. So these movies that I like are really tense. They don't hold your hand as you're walking through them. It's not like... I love the movie Alien. And looking back, it seems so quaint as compared to the ridiculousness that happens today. The building tension, the attention to detail, creating the world that they live in. And I'm not talking about Alien, obviously it goes on the list, but I'm not specifically just referencing that. But they built the world, and then they let the tension and the horror happen inside of that world. You can tell that the filmmaker for The Night They Knocked put a lot of thought into the backstory that you're never going to know about. You are seeing the result of whatever the backstory is. And I think that's what makes for wonderful characters. As stupid as it is, at the Renaissance Fair, these people will write 3 pages about their character and their history. And it seems dumb, but when you watch them interact with each other, some of them are really good, and they are their characters, and they'll even reference things, random things in somebody else's backstory. I used to know a lot of people on cast, I don't anymore. But the point I'm making is, you can tell there was some thought put into the backstory and the reason. You'll just never know what it is. And I think that's what makes it horrifying. When there's never a rhyme or reason for something, really, or you can't figure out what it is, other than just maliciousness. I don't like that movie, Malicious, by the way. Anyway, other than maliciousness, not necessarily evil, that makes the movie more disturbing. There's no justification, no guy who was accidentally dropped off a bridge, everybody thought he was dead, he comes back and starts killing them off one by one. No, see, I can see the reasoning behind that, but when I can't see the reasoning, it's terrifying. There's another movie, if you want to jump in, it's called Hush. It's about a deaf woman, and they do a really good job. They show you her world inside the house she's in. I think she's an author. Can't remember right off the top of my head. And actually, it's only a small part. But in this film, it shows you all the accessibility features. It shows you everything that she has in the house to help her do what she needs to do, because she can't hear. And when you take those things away, and all she has left is sight, it is mortifying for you as the viewer, because you sympathize with that character. Now me, I don't mean this in any way, but if somebody's got a disability, I automatically sympathize with them. I'm probably overly sensitive to what I think their needs are. So I'm seeing this woman who can't hear, having to rely on her sight. And if you're in a large environment, you may not hear some things that are happening. You may not you may not feel the vibrations. I don't mean hear, but you may not feel the vibrations. And like us, when I was saying you might not hear, like we might not hear things that are going on upstairs, down the hall, in another room if they're not big actions. And usually you can, when your kids mess up or knock something over, you can feel it as well as hear it. So her not being able to feel things. Now there is one part in this movie, they should have left this individual out because it kind of took me out of it a little bit. Because if you have a realistic movie with realistic consequences and you have somebody that goes against those rules, it can take you out of the film. But it didn't take me out of it for more than a couple minutes. It was a great, great movie. It might still be on Netflix. I don't know. It was on there. There's another one, skipping past this one. This is all on my kind of bottom rungs here, but as I said before, I'm a snob, so my bottom rungs are probably don't deserve to be called bottom rungs. I don't even know how to describe it, but they're not bad movies. They're all good. The Ritual. The Ritual is a movie. It's a bonding movie about men coping with the death of their friend. There's some guilt. There's also some blame. It's kind of repressed, and they're trying to deal with it the best they can, and they're going on a trip to honor him, and they go out into the wilderness, not the wilderness, but the woods, beautiful countryside, and they had a little service there. But things start happening, and this is the best kind of things start happening movie. This is the one where you want to know what's going to happen. You want to find out what's going to happen next. You don't want them to hold your hand. You want it to happen. You want it to keep happening. And I don't like movies where you know what's going on, but the characters don't. You don't know what's going on, and you find out as the characters find out. The ending is unique, based in folklore and mythology. And at the end, it's one of those horror movies where you feel some relief, but when you look back to the movie as a whole, was it really a win? I mean, so much was lost. Was it really a win? What's going to happen now? I mean, it's just one of those films that you'll also be talking about, and it'll stay with you. It will stay with you. And if you want to jump up another notch, Blackcoat's Daughter. Blackcoat's Daughter is one of the most unique films I have. If you ever seen the movie Gretel and Hansel, it's the same director. Now you can tell that was Gretel and Hansel was an ambitious film, very artsy. I didn't really care for it that much, but I understood what he was trying to do, and I respected it. I didn't think it was a bad movie. I just didn't think it was great. But Blackcoat's Daughter, on the other hand, Kiernan Shipka, I hope I say that right. Emma Roberts is in it, and there's another actress you might recognize and another actor. But it is so bizarre, wonderfully bizarre, and it's kind of gory in parts. You have a young girl, I guess she doesn't have any parents. They never really say if she has parents or her parents just don't care much about her. They just kind of send her off to this boarding school is what I think it is. It's a Christian school, I believe, Catholic. But they don't harp on that. It does play an important part, though. And something happens, and there's a noticeable change. And it's intermixed with Emma Roberts. Things are happening with her, and then it cuts back to the past, cuts to into the future, and they just sort of mesh in the most wonderful and horrific way possible. And I can't talk about it without spoiling it. I do not want to spoil this movie for you. It's a slow burn, but it burns in the best way possible. I really think Blackcoat's Daughter, I think you will like it a lot. I put it in my holy trinity along with this other film that I'm going to talk about, The Witch. If you have not seen The Witch, or you watched it and you didn't like it, I suggest you go back and watch it. If you watched it with a bunch of people, it may not be the best movie, to watch with a large group of people because there's just too many people there, and you want to talk, you want to watch stupid slasher moments and all jump and laugh at the same time. There was a lot of research put into The Witch. A lot. The research on the dialect, the language, the research on the mythology, and things like that. You know bad things are happening. You don't want them to happen, but they are. And because they grew up in the time that they did, you aren't sure whether or not this is really the work of a witch, because we all know people were murdered back then for making soap out of pig's fat or whatever, you know, things like that. But bad things are happening. And you're just watching Thomasin, this poor girl, being blamed for everything. Things are out of her control. And there's one acting piece with the younger brother. I don't care what anybody says. How they had him pull this off, a child actor being able to pull off this level of acting, I haven't seen it since. It's incredible. I don't want to ruin it, but when a reveal is made at the end, it is probably one of the coolest subtle transformations I have ever seen. And it's not Thomasin. It involves another entity. It's awesome. Slow build. The music is incredible, and the ending is disturbing. And you watch this family just fall apart because they didn't like where they were living. It was the dad. He didn't like it. He was a righteous man. He didn't like living in the colony they were at, so he wanted to move away, and things just don't work out for them. And I think you will like it. It's a period piece. They keep you in that period, and that's so important. It's just a great film. I love it. And probably my favorite director, Ari Aster, put out two of my favorite movies, Midsommar and the one that I cannot speak highly enough about, and that's Hereditary. I have both The Witch and Hereditary. They're both A24 films. I have both of their books they put out with the screenplay, the director's notes. They actually copied the director's notes. They have images and they have descriptions. It's incredible. And when you have this, you can now go watch the movie and you understand like little things. And I'm going to spoil one part here. She's painting and she reaches for her paint and it gets knocked over. I didn't think anything about it. I thought maybe she scooted the table. But when I went back and watched it again, it knocked itself over and leaked onto a page that led to something else and something else and something else. And you're watching this family deal with grief again. Absurd things become normal. They end up, there's one part in there that's kind of laughable. You know, it just depends. I'm not going to spoil it. But it starts to build, and you start to just know something terrible is about to happen. And terrible things do happen. And it's awesome. And Toni Collette is wonderful in this film. Gabriel Byrne, I think is his name. He's the dad. Can't remember the son's name or the dog, but both of them are wonderful. Peter and Charlie, they're the kids. You're watching sort of a family prophecy be fulfilled throughout this film in a way that's, I use the word a lot, but wonderfully disturbing. And by the end of it, you want to go back and watch it again, and you will see things you miss. You miss things over and over and over. There's one particularly creepy scene I think it's wonderful. I'm not spoiling the movie. You don't know whether it's creep, you don't know what it is, but she's in her bed, or she's in the bedroom, I think, and she looks over and you can see translucent, not like a ghost, but like her mom is standing there. And she flips on the light, she's gone, flips it off, she's still gone. And you can see that this might be grief. This might be a symptom of grief. but it's really not. It's done in a very tasteful way. It's not handled as a jump scare, cats jumping out. There's one jump scare to this day. I know it's coming, and I still jump up out of my seat. I pull my feet up off the floor, and I'm like, I'm tense, like I'm the one that's running. It's incredible. It's incredible. And the ending music, chef's kiss, phenomenal movie. And then after that, see, Ari Aster had gone through a breakup, so they wanted him to make a breakup movie. And he's like, I don't want to do a romantic comedy. I want to do this. And so he made Midsommar. Midsommar is another one that Ari Aster did where you will miss things. The third time I watched that movie, I saw something and I had to pause. I was freaked out. It's not a big plot point. Florence Pugh loses her sister, and there's something else tragic that goes along with it. But her sister's face is just scary when you see it. And later on in the movie, almost at the end, there's a bunch of trees. And overlaid on the trees, and again, not until the third time I saw this did I see it. Her face, that face is overlaid, and part of the scene is overlaid on the trees, but you wouldn't know it unless you knew to look for it. He is so good. Now, he came out with, I think, Beau is Afraid. I haven't seen it yet. I heard it. I don't want to ruin my, Ari Aster love. I heard it was okay. I probably will watch it, but I like Ari Aster, the horror movie guy, but I understand he didn't want to be typecast like M. Night Shyamalan, but, the guy who's, my twist has got to be better this time, my twist has got to be better this time, and this time. There is a twist in each one of these movies, but the twist is being built up to in Hereditary and Midsommar from the very beginning to the very end. And you are left at the very end thinking to yourself, what happened? How did they get to that point? There's a version of Midsommar, and after you watch this movie, I double dare you, with no music at the ending. No music at the end. It's only the sounds. And it is haunting, as I've said before, which is a wonderful word to use, and it's scary, especially with what's going on. So I would really urge you to watch this movie and pay attention to the things that are happening as you go along. It starts to get really weird, but it's based in reality. They did their research. These are things that the type of people they're visiting did in the past. It's mortifying because it's in modern civilized society. And that's what makes it so foreign, so alien. It makes it seem so out of place, but to them it's normal. And it reminds you that how you are raised, the environment you're raised in, that's what's normal to you. And it's proof that, you're from another country, I'm from this country. I don't really know what you grew up with. I assume we all watch TV. I assume we all have cell phones. But I don't know the environment you grew up with. I don't know what life is like and dealing with the people and all the struggles you have. And this is what happens when worlds collide. When, first world meets second, third world. Primitive, almost, society. It's just a beautiful example of that. And I think this movie is great. I know it's not as good as Hereditary, and I know some people may not like it, but I found it wonderful. I guess I went into it expecting, the prestige type horror movie where a lot of care and a lot of thought and the cinematography and the music, and without cats jumping out for jump scares and things like that. It's almost the scariest part of that movie is the relationship that Florence Pugh and her boyfriend are in. Because you can tell the relationship is not the same for both of them. And then there's guilt and obligation, and it's just this perfect storm of crap that builds to this, you want to say jubilant ending, but it's terrible. It's terrible in the best way. It's so good. It is so good. And you know what? I think I am going to make a part 2 of this. If you made it to the end of this, listening to me ramble, I appreciate it. I knew what I was going to talk about, the movies. I just didn't write down what I wanted to say, because if I script it out, a lot of times with me, it's just going to sound like number 10. When this movie was made back in... I don't want you to know anything about the movies other than what I think is great about them and that they are worth watching. So I hope you wrote all of them down, and I hope you watch them, and I would love to know what you guys think about them. So I'm going to make a part 2, another Lauren video coming out soon. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.